Hello and welcome to the Investing Bros. I am T Shroom and you are locked in to the very first live crypto news show of the trading day, and I'm really glad to bring it to you. Man, yeah, we go live every single day at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I've yet to really seen a show that go earlier than this one. So let me know in the chat, is there a show that goes earlier than this one? Let me know in the comments. I certainly haven't seen it, but it could exist. I know that there's some smaller channels in Europe and the UK, but go ahead and tag me in them. Bring them to my attention. I want to see. All right. Well, guys, we've got some bullish news here on the charts. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Bitcoin charts. I want to show you something that's actually pretty exciting. It's getting the bulls pretty excited. It's a golden cross. Yes. So this is a 200-day moving average in the white, and then you also, and I'll go ahead and clear out the Bollinger Bands for this. And then the red is the 50-day moving average, so much more nimble, much more agile. It's accounting for the last 50 days. So it's going to be a slow mover. Well, we're getting a cross right here. We're getting a golden cross, which is usually pretty bullish. Now, here is kind of the caveat, though, bros. The caveat is that these crosses are usually a lagging indicator because it's based on past data, right? So what we can conclude, though, is that, things are generally moving bullish. I mean, if your 50-day is crossing over your 200-day, right, that means that price is spending a lot of time moving up and to the right, putting in data above what it was before, right? And you can see back here that there was actually a death cross. Now, I'm not coming up with these names myself, right? These names are, I believe they originate in Japan, actually. And so it wouldn't be death, it would be whatever the Japanese equivalent of the word death. However, as you can see, this death cross back here, this kind of indicated the end of the bear market, right? But it was a lagging indicator because the end of the bear market was really, back here at the lows, most people would say, in November of 2022. So that's when we got like 15,700 or whatever it was. So that's really exciting. Bulls are going to be very excited. However, I would say that if we're seeing it now, right, that means that it's already happened, right? And you can see that this gigantic move higher here for Bitcoin. I mean, we all know and love it, right? Back here from 27,000, breaking through this resistance here at 30,000, pushing higher up to where we are now at 42,000. It's kind of a lagging indicator. So I don't think that it's really predicting something to come so much as it's, kind of indicating or confirming that this bullish move, in the same way that the death cross kind of spelled the death of the bear market here. So interesting move. This isn't something that's extremely tradable, right? Because especially if you're trading on a smaller time scale, because there's really not a whole lot to do with it. I think really it's kind of an indication of when to start accumulating, when to start, buying and things like that. Not that that's really even how I'm interpreting it. So ultimately, it's something to be excited about, right? And you'll probably see it all over, but to me, it's not super actionable. It's just kind of like seeing the Christmas trees go up for Christmas. It's like, oh, it's Christmas time, right? But there's not a lot of action to take. You should have already been getting your gifts for your loved ones. You should have already been accumulating Bitcoin through the bear market. So hopefully that resonates with somebody. Taking a look at some wider Bitcoin technical analysis. I'm still out on the weekly, so we'll see what we can figure out here. I can see that there's actually a bearish cross on the MACD kind of warming up as this blue MACD line is going ahead and curling over. Haven't seen that quite yet on the yellow as it's still pointing up and to the right, but you are getting waning green histograms. So deceleration of bullish momentum, and that spells trouble, right? Well, we'll see. We'll see. Because I'm kind of bullish right now, guys. I'm feeling a little bullish because I think what we just got over the last 3-4 days, right? Now I'm on the daily charts. I've gone off the weekly charts. I'm on the daily charts. I think what we've seen the last couple days is a confirmation that Bitcoin does not want to trade below 41,200, right? And I talked about this yesterday on the 3 p.m. show with Tim and also with Piano Matty B. Guys, if you didn't see that collab, go ahead and check it out. But I kind of made that argument, and I think what we got was kind of a confirmation of that. We didn't even get a wick down to that level back here on January 12th. The wick didn't even come down that low, and then we certainly didn't get candle body closes back at this 41,200 level. Where am I pulling that level from? Well, we haven't had a candle body close since December 11th at that level, right? And then you have to go all the way back to December 4th before we had one before December 11th, right? So we're seeing, put simply, right? So maybe you're not doing a lot of technical analysis. Put simply, there's just a lot of buying pressure. There's a lot of buyers when they get an indication, hey, Bitcoin's back down to 41,200, all the buyers rush in and buy, right? So it doesn't allow the price to go lower than that because it bids it back up. We saw it here. Price got to 41.2, bid back up. Price got to 41.2, bid back up. Same thing here and same thing here. On this candlestick wick, didn't even get low enough to hit 41.2 before it got bought back up. And the way that bearish, or the way that red candlesticks works, it's not going to get bid all the way back up, but it got bid from the bottom of this wick back up, and then throughout the rest of throughout the next 3 to 4 days, which brings us into the present, it got bid up. Right now, we haven't seen these big green candlesticks shooting back up from those lows yet. Right. But I'm kind of leaning towards, I'm not saying that this has to happen by any means. So this isn't trading advice, right? This is just observation. But I'm kind of leaning towards, I do think we're going to get a pretty big green candle. What the catalyst is, I'm not sure. Maybe it's this, Golden Cross narrative that's kind of in the news right now. I personally am not really finding much actionable, impulse, actionable motivation from this. But some less experienced traders might. They might think here, Golden Cross, oh, this is the time to buy, and they're right, but they're right for the wrong reasons, in my opinion. So it's all going to be okay, though. I'm continuing to DCA here at these levels. Actually buying the leveraged ETF BitX. I have a lot of spot exposure already, so I wanted to get that BitX, and I've been buying that. So let's go over here and take a look at some news. But before we do, I want to bring to your attention the chat, because we've got an awesome, thriving community here in the Investing Bros space. Let's see. I've got Dylan Martinez was the most recent chat. Hey, saying yo. Cryptic Mac said bros, and then Nancy Croy was the first chat. She said, good morning, T-Shroom and all. And for those of you who don't know, Nancy Croy was the first chat of 2024, and we're very, very excited to have her coming along. Servando Estrada, one of the best names in the world, said, good morning, everyone. So very, very exciting. Servando, of course, one of our faves, just because how that name rolls off the tongue. You know what I mean. All right, let's take a look at some other... we're going to look at the news. Before we look at the news, I want to tell you all, let's look at Ethereum really quickly, because Ethereum has actually been a bit more interesting here, as it's kind of playing around, these highs, right, that it's put in. It was able to climb on January 8th all the way to January 11th. It was able to climb quite a bit, moving from 2,200 all the way on up to 2,600 at the candle body close at the top. So, and that accounted for essentially a move of 17% close to close, and then close to wick, that was 22% move. So Ethereum putting in a good amount of work, and it's able to stay above, hasn't even come back and tested this support here, right? Around 23.5 or 23.8 in that kind of support range. Hasn't come to test that. I think it will, because you also have the midline of the Bollinger Band here around those same levels. So I'm thinking probably a little bit more of a pullback for Ethereum, because it got a little bit overbought, a little bit overzealous right there on that Larry Fink pop when he said he kind of threw some support behind the ETF, the spot Ethereum ETF. So it probably got a little bit overbought for the short term. I mean, for like the daily term, not for the long term. Some analysts thinking, Ethereum could get to 10,000, right, very, very soon. So we're keeping an eye on that. But that's some Ethereum TA, not going too deep into it. Let's go to the 4 hour. Let's see what's popping at the 4 hour for Ethereum. All right, so on the MACD, I do see some things jumping out at me, which is that the MACD lines are kind of normalizing here, coming off of a big bullish move higher, lots of bullish momentum that has waned, and we are now coming out and recovering from all of that selling on the 4-hour again, right? And we're kind of normalizing. And the fact that we weren't really getting sellers below 2,400 indicates to me that it's going to be tough to break back through that resistance. Break back through that support. Excuse me. So bulls kind of have the advantage here, and that is indicated here by the Lux Algo oscillator matrix. You can kind of see trading well above that 50 line, and kind of indicating continued bullish pressure potentially. So we'll be keeping an eye on that for sure. Well, that's going to do it for the TA. Actually, let's go ahead and look at one more really quick, guys. Cardano on the 4-hour, and then we'll look at it on the daily. Cardano on the 4-hour is looking a lot more uncertain, so it's kind of looking a little bit more like Bitcoin to me. It's down below the midline of the Bollinger Band, which is in my opinion pretty bearish. We want to see it trade back up above that, but for right now, at 52 cents. Cardano is kind of struggling here, but not any more than Bitcoin, I'd say. So we want to see that move higher. Not a ton jumping out at me in terms of which direction this is going to go. I think, because the MACD is not really telling you much. You just got a big recovery like Ethereum. You got some selling pressure that waned off. But then the buying was not really strong, and so that tells you sideways, just like Bitcoin, like I said. So ultimately, not a whole lot to pull out there. On the daily, let's see if there's anything more glaring. Yeah, this looks a little more bullish because those red histograms are waning. But then down here on the Lux Algo oscillator, you're starting to get this cloud really accelerate there to the downside. So we'll see. It's even below the midline of the Bollinger Band there on the daily chart as well. Let's see if that's the case. I don't think I took note of that. Yeah, so for Bitcoin this is kind of the big move that it's trying to make here if you're a bull, is get back above this midline of the Bollinger Band at 43,008. We can get back up above there, especially if we can close a daily candle above there, then I think we make a move higher, potentially up to 50,000. So that's kind of my TA there. Ultimately, we're not seeing enough movement in one direction or another. We need a bullish catalyst, and that's where the news comes in. So let's jump into it. One thing to have on your calendar, a little save the date, right, that's fast approaching, is the January 30th through 31st meeting for the FOMC. This is not something to be ignored. This is going to be somewhat significant, right, because it's going to be Jerome Powell coming out and giving an indication of whether or not they are going to cut, or how early in 2024 they're going to cut rates. There was mention of that at the last meeting, and we shall see. My estimation is that January, it's kind of a lock that it's just going to be another pause. But if there's a surprise, you'll want to be ready, have some stop losses in for sure. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into this clip here from JP Morgan. He's there at Davos, mixing it up with the global elites. Let's hear what he's got. Let's hear what he's got to say here.
There's a cryptocurrency which might actually do something.
Oh man, it's
think of a cryptocurrency
really
as an
disobedient.
A cryptocurrency has an embedded smart contract.
Let me refresh this here because we want to get a good look at this clip. All right.
Currencies, there are two types. There's a cryptocurrency which might actually do something. Think of a cryptocurrency as an embedded smart contract in it, and that we can use it to buy and sell real estate and move data. That may have value.
The idea of tokenizing things.
Tokenizing things that you do something with. And then there's one which does nothing. I call it the pet rock, the Bitcoin or something like that. And so on the Bitcoin, there's, first of all, and I'm not trying to make a joke here. There are use cases, AML, fraud, anti-money laundering, tax avoidance, sex trafficking. Those are real use cases, and you see it being used for hundreds, maybe $50, $100 billion a year for that. That is the end use case. Everything else is people train among themselves. So
speculate.
Yeah. Now my last statement, the last time I ever talk about Bitcoin, is I defend your right to do Bitcoin. I think, it's okay. I don't want to tell you what to do. So My personal advice would be don't get involved, but I don't want to tell any one of you what to do. It's a free country.
What do you make of BlackRock? What do you make of the other firms, the BlackRocks of the world that obviously, and Larry Fink changed his view of this, obviously.
Yeah.
And maybe he changed his view because you think he genuinely believes in Bitcoin, or believed it because he thinks that there's a marketplace for it and he wants to be part of that market. But what do you think of there's about a dozen big financial companies, Fidelity included.
Number one, I don't care. So just please stop talking about this shit. And I don't know what he would say about blockchain versus currencies that do something versus Bitcoin that does nothing. And maybe that's not different than me. But, this is what makes him.
It's really interesting there. We'll finish the clip, but he's very emotional there with that profanity. And it's like, why do you need to have such an emotional reaction? You're one of the most powerful people in the world. You can show your power in other ways. Why are you having to use your language on CNBC, right, to try to assert dominance in that moment? Just be Jamie Dimon, right? Clearly, there's something he's insecure about, which is why he would say something like that. I think he's kind of he's painted himself into a corner, whether it's by his own principles that he hates Bitcoin, or whether he's kind of locked into some interest that's putting pressure on him to speak in this way, and kind of take this position on Bitcoin. The use of profanity there, it kind of leaves you scratching your head, like, why? You don't hear. There's not a lot of sound clips of somebody like Obama like using profanity, right? There's powerful people usually don't use profanity because their actions are their powerful moves, right? They don't need to say things like that. Now, you see somebody like Jamie Dimon getting clearly upset. He said, "Don't ask me about that S." It's like, you should be able to take any question that any correspondent on CNBC, right, a company that your company basically owns in tandem with a couple others on Wall Street. It's embarrassing, it's strange, and I think people see right through it, right? I think that the folks who aren't going to buy Bitcoin, they're not going to buy Bitcoin for their own reasons. But I think less and less people are hearing Jamie Dimon and saying, I'm not going to buy it because of him. I think they see him and they see, Elizabeth Warren. They see, the UN, who has come out against Tether this week. And they just see like this small kind of group that's anti-crypto that's kind of dwindling in power, making these last-minute jabs at crypto as it's, merged with TradFi, with the passing of the spot Bitcoin ETF, that approval. So let's continue the clip. Just wanted to interject there because when somebody like this uses profanity, it can't go unnoticed.
Market. People have opinions. This is the last time I'm ever going to state my opinion.
Gold really didn't do anything either.
Yeah, but gold's limited in supply.
So is Bitcoin.
And it's been used. So you think so, huh?
I do.
I think there's a good chance that when we get to that 20 million Bitcoins,
they go to 42.
No, that Satoshi's going to come on there, laugh hysterically, go quiet, all Bitcoin's going to be erased.
I think, man.
How the hell do you know it's going to stop at 21? I've never met one person who told me they know for a fact. They take that
mathematically, it can't happen because by the last one will be mined in 2150, and it gets harder and harder every time there's another halving. But Jamie, look at.
This guy's a longtime bull, so I like to see a Bitcoin bull. So it's nice to see someone actually putting pressure on Jamie Dimon.
You guys do what you want, I'll do what I want.
As for gold, you can the 6 characteristics that make gold valuable for 4,000 years. They're all present in Bitcoin. That's all I'll say. And I love you, and I don't want to. And I also don't want.
Ooh, that another very strong word, using the L word there, love. I love you. Trying to make Jamie Dimon feel comfortable. He's like, hey, we're out in the cold. we're asking you questions you don't want to answer. You're cursing on our show that's probably supposed to be family friendly. And he drops the L word there, right? That's not to be unnoticed. There's a real power dynamic going on here. Because what is CNBC? CNBC, they definitely are, let's say, well connected with JP Morgan, which is what Jamie Dimon is the CEO of JP Morgan. They're well connected, right? Meaning they're owned by them in part, right? But they're also owned in part by some of these other Wall Street firms that have come out and said Bitcoin good with their spot Bitcoin ETF and the approval there. So it's, there's kind of this tension right now, and a lot of that is coming to bear very quickly. Usually the teasing out of this tension happens over an extended period of time, but we're seeing it kind of concentrated in this one interview. It's very interesting. It's actually the first time I'm watching this interview, by the way. So let's keep watching a couple seconds here.
Want to be a
Joe, you may be right.
Yeah.
Like, I don't own gold either, so okay.
That's what I mean.
Couple of quick final questions.
Yeah. So a very interesting. We pulled out a couple of things there. Now, one thing that I've seen in the headlines as well this morning is that Jamie Dimon in that quote, in that clip, we kind of graze over it because I picked out some other things in there as well. But Jamie Dimon kind of saying, you do you, I'm going to do me. You have the freedom. This is a free country. He's in Switzerland, so he's kind of forgetting where he is. But, do what you want. You're free to own Bitcoin if you want, which is nice. And you can even interpret that maybe as a walking back of this pretty harsh rhetoric, this harsh and logically unfounded rhetoric that Jamie Dimon and Elizabeth Warren and then the UN, to some extent, the UN's comments weren't about Bitcoin directly at all. But that these actors have been saying. So it's interesting to see, Jamie Dimon. We spent a lot of time on this one. Jamie Dimon, obviously a very important, influential figure in Wall Street. But interviews like this, it's kind of hard to get in the mind of just the average, Wall Street bro listening to this interview who has a little Bitcoin. Right, his dad, his mom have a little bit of Bitcoin at this point, and you're hearing Jamie Dimon say this, and you're like, why do people want to work for this guy? Right? Unless there's just like an ongoing joke, an ongoing secret that this is a meme. Peter Schiff is also somebody like this, but at least Peter Schiff, it makes sense for him to be like that because he owns a crap ton of gold, and the thesis for gold is the same for Bitcoin, except Bitcoin is better. And so I get why Peter Schiff is anti-Bitcoin. It kind of makes sense, and it's a nice little meme, right? A little anti-hero for the narrative arc of Bitcoin. However, Jamie Dimon, it doesn't make sense because of all his buddies on Wall Street now have tossed their hat into this pot. Well, we'll see. I mean, he's still got Vanguard on his side. He's still got Merrill Lynch, so he's not completely alone. He's got Elizabeth Warren and some of the Democrats there. But ultimately, I think that they're losing ground. And by they, I mean, the anti-Bitcoin movement, the lobby there, they're losing ground, and they're getting pretty hard questions thrown at them on CNBC, and they're having, Jamie Dimon having to use profanity in that moment. That's his impulse. He's getting frustrated with the position that he's taken, and I think probably he doesn't believe it anymore, or he's just tired of talking about it, right? At least. So, I don't think he has very much conviction of any. Sorry, I know we're taking a lot of time on this one. Eric Wallen said, T-Shroom, the Democrats believe this stuff about Bitcoin. Yeah, it's possible. There's always going to be true believers. But what else did he say? He talked about Satoshi's going to, when they get to the 21 million Bitcoins, that Satoshi's going to pop out and all the Bitcoin's going to get erased. That to me tells me, look, I don't look at the Bitcoin code, and I can't look at the Bitcoin code and interpret whether or not something crazy like that is going to happen, right? But there are some of the most elite software developers and computer scientists that have taken a deep dive into the Bitcoin code, right, and the protocol, and understood everything that it can do, will do, and there have been modifications to the code, right? That's what all these that's what all the core developers are doing. They're writing code that can be voted on by the miners, by the nodes, and then implemented. So people are very familiar with every single line of the code for Bitcoin. And to think that Jamie Dimon hasn't had a single aide that he's had a conversation, presented that crazy idea to, and that aide has said, "Oh, Jamie, that's not a possibility. That's not a thing, right? Unless Satoshi not only knew something about economics and encryption, but also knew something about programming itself that nobody else knew, that you could embed some kind of ticking time bomb into code that it can go undetectable." It's silly, it's uneducated, and it's continuing to make him look very, very ignorant. And I don't know that I feel bad for the guy, because it's hard to feel bad with somebody like that. But ultimately, he's taking this position, and it's starting to kind of come across to me like these guys are just setting themselves up to ultimately come back on the other side, and it's just a time delay. They're bullish on Bitcoin. They have Bitcoin, right? I mean, JP Morgan's an authorized participant in, I think, multiple of the spot Bitcoin ETFs that were approved, right? So they are exposed to Bitcoin. They like it, but the very top of the JP Morgan, pyramid there is coming out and saying things against it, right? So I think ultimately what it's starting to look like to me is that these guys are speaking out of one side of their mouth until it's time to pump Bitcoin, and then they change their mind, and then they get to manipulate the markets a little bit. That's one take. That's a theory. A little bit of tinfoil hat there. Let's get into our last story here, and then actually we've got two more stories, and then we'll go ahead and call it here. But thank you so much, guys, for tuning in to the Investing Bros. This episode is actually brought to you by Decrypt.tax. Decrypt.tax is actually holding a 60-minute for free consultation. Stop delaying your taxes. You've been investing in crypto. You've been trading crypto. That's something you have to report to the IRS. I'm going to be doing that this year. Tim is going to be doing that. Investing Bros as an entity is going to be doing that. You have to get it right, guys. You don't want this to follow you around. You do have to report crypto now in the United States, and that might stress you out. That might piss you off, right? But there are two certainties in life. That's death and taxes. So go over there to decrypted.tax. Get ahead of it. Stop delaying it. Stop putting it off. Go ahead, get that free consultation. Maybe you don't do it this year. Maybe you don't go with it this year. First of all, it's illegal. You have to file your crypto taxes. You have to report your taxes, right? But in that 60-minute consultation, it's free. There's no commitments there, right? You go in there, you talk to Ernest, you tell him that Investing Bros sent you, and more than likely he's going to help you in the same way that he's helping Tim and I. He's going to help you feel good and confident about your decisions, about your crypto investments from a tax standpoint. That's decrypted.tax. Tell Ernest that the Investing Bros sent you, and you actually get 25% off the services. So not only a free consultation, but 25% off the services. Now you're saying, T-Shroom, but I've already got a tax guy, and he said he can do crypto. If they say they can do crypto, maybe they can, right? But you want to vet that. Don't take any chances. Go with the crypto tax experts over at decrypted.tax. Ethereum's Dang Kun upgrade goes live but fails to finalize on the testnet. The upgrade was pushed at 6:32 UTC, blockchain data shows, but did not reach consensus and was not finalized on the testnet. Developers expect the apparent issue to be fixed in the coming days. These likely occurred due to low participation and validators not upgrading parts of their software that would have helped the finalization. So there's a lot more. There's more technical information about this, right? But is this gonna push Ethereum lower? The price? I don't think so. I don't think a lot of people are trading based on the development of Ethereum right now. I think they're trading based on wider capital restraints and risk management, right? That those are my kind of prevailing forces and thesis for why these prices are going higher or lower, or in the case of assets this week, sideways. But I do think that these are important developments, and they won't be ignored if they're not remedied. However, when you're operating a test net, issues like this are expected. They're not just permissible. They're not just permissible, right? They are expected. So I don't expect anything but success at the other side of this. Now, if we have another failure here from Dang Kun testnet, then that's going to be an issue, and that could potentially start to impact price. But right now, educated investors in Ethereum understand that this is not that big of a deal, but it is a bit of a setback, right? You would have liked to have seen a win on the first try. We'll see. Well, we've got one more story here, two more stories here. Real quick as we wrap up the show, ARK Invest buys 15.9 million of its own Bitcoin ETF, and to make it real quick for you, they sold BITO, which is the spot, which is the the futures Bitcoin ETF. This is the one that a lot of the folks that I orange pilled actually went ahead and went and bought just because it was available at the time through every brokerage. But they've gone ahead and flipped that into ARK-B, which is the ARK 21 shares Bitcoin spot ETF from Cathie Wood's firm. And it makes sense to the tune of 15.9 million. That kind of makes sense for them to do. One more headline here, probably not going to affect you very much, but Bitcoin miners Core Scientific to emerge from bankruptcy to relist shares later this month, encouraging for them. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I've been T Shroom. And of course, make sure if you got some little bit of value from this video, please subscribe and also like on the way out. And if you've been putting off your taxes, go over to decrypttax.com and get all that sorted out. Get your free consultation scheduled so that you can be off to the races and feeling confident about your taxes moving into the new year. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time when Tim and I will go live again. And I think we have magic internet money on today, so we'll be getting deep into the charts, babies, checking out some magic levels. We'll see you there.
Trying to make paper, turn that better to cake. Money like Lego, connect the dots that bank. We are investing bros. We are investing bros. Army pipe, lethal on trade. Entries and exits, worthy of praise. Tim, the professor of the TA. Shout it out loud on the PA. T-Shroom's news, got the word. Doing better than what he deserves. Beamer, leave no evidence. Soon fly coop with his dividends. Trying to make paper, turn that better to cake. Money like Lego, connect the dots that bank. We are investing bros. We are investing bros.